How's it guys? Back with another video today on pet preparedness and what you can do to prepare on behalf of your furry friends at home in case of an emergency. This video is for you even if you don't have animals at home, because in an emergency you may find yourself rescuing strays, so stick around. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. In recent months with the war in Ukraine, I've seen so many reports of animals being rescued and taken to shelters either because they were abandoned or they got lost during the absolute chaos of war. And we are stewards of nature. God has commissioned us to take care of the animals and to take care of our environment. So it really is important to extend your consideration and your disaster preparedness to your animals. So what I've got here are a couple of things that we've tested out, that we have tried and vetted and really can recommend in case of an emergency. The kinds of things that you prepare are going to depend on the animals that you keep. Whether you have dogs or cats or livestock, or whether you've got horses or birds or whatever it is, you're going to prepare differently, but the fundamentals remain the same. You need to ensure that you've got food for that animal for at least a period of 2 days. You need to ensure that you've got some way of keeping them safe and sheltered. You need to make sure that you can collect and give water to them, so it's not just having water in a container. They also need to be able to drink it from that container. And you also need to ensure that you can keep them warm. So those are very similar to what we people have as needs in an emergency. And most of you would recognize this from some of my other YouTube videos. So this is Indy's tactical harness, and I get plenty of questions about this. We bought this harness just because we thought it was cute, and because then she can carry her own poop bags and she can carry her own treats. As it happens, there are some other advantages to it. Since we've purchased this for her, we've also added a torch onto the front. So if we are in, I think the battery's flat though. So if we are trekking through the bush at night in the dark, then she actually has her own torch, so she can see in the dark as well. This keeps her safer and from falling in holes, and it makes it easier for us to find her in the dark. So this is really great because it also covers a lot of her. Because we've got such venomous snakes in the area, this is extra protection against snakes. Being a Jack Russell, nothing is too much of a challenge for her. So it really is something that gives us peace of mind knowing that there is a little bit of covering on her. Inside each packet, and these little pockets didn't come along with the harness, I actually added them on. We've sewn them on with a little bit of elastic over there, and they fit onto the molly attachments of the harness. So in each pocket there's something different. On this side there are some poop bags, and we can add something else in here. Whatever you feel like adding to it, you can. If you've got a bigger dog that can carry more weight, you can actually buy bigger pockets and then add some water into the one side and treats onto the other side. So over here we've got some treats. And these are really great because it's something that she's familiar with. So in case of an emergency, let's say we're displaced from our home, we do have some treats that will just calm her down. Jerseys and tactical harnesses, or any harness of any sort, can also chafe your animal if they get wet or if they land up in mud. So remember to check carefully under their arms or wherever there are straps or belts that keep the gear attached to the animal, to make sure that there isn't any rubbing, and be very sensitive to their needs as well. If your animal suddenly stops wanting to move and you find that they aren't keen to go forward anymore, check them for injuries, and remember to check them for bites or rashes as well. Cats are a little bit more difficult to prepare for than dogs because they don't always come when you call them, and they can be more skittish than dogs as well. So as soon as there's noise or some sort of disruption, the cats tend to take off and they go and hide and find a safe place for themselves. For that reason, the first thing that I do when there is a disaster or a fire, and I can tell you this from experience, we've evacuated due to fire before, the first thing I do is grab the cat. She sleeps in a little box, and the first thing I do is grab a hold of her. So she has a carrier And I've actually caught her in the air before as she leapt off the bed when we were evacuating due to fire. So it's really important to think about where everybody is going to be in that moment of disaster. And then what are you going to do with that animal once you've gotten a hold of them? So dogs are easy because you can put a nice harness on them and put a leash on them, but cats need to be contained. And dogs, especially dogs that are very active or can exit your yard in some of the other manner, should really be kept in a safe place as well. Remember, animals don't think the way we do. They don't foresee disaster. So if you know that a house is going to burn down, that animal, thinking that that home is usually safe or that there is a safe space, is not going to foresee the fire reaching that place in the house that they think is safe. So if you've got a deck like this, for example, you might find your animals go and hide under the deck. Really, really bad idea. So get a hold of that animal, keep them in a safe place. Now, I have spoken about this bag before. It is a PAPAZAU pet carrier. I got it off of Amazon. I really am impressed with this bag. It opens up and it's got a little mesh at the top that you can close up. So you can put the animal inside, whether it's a dog or a cat, and then close them up and you can still see them, they can still see you. There are little windows and there are 2 doors on the side for them to enter and exit. It also has a little stash bag at the back here where I have kept for the cat a bottle that I can fill with water. It's just a squishy bottle, and then a tin of tuna. Now, you know your animals better than anyone else, and anybody who comes across your pet in a disaster is not going to know what to feed them. I've got a fussy eater for a cat. She only eats her biscuits and she only eats tuna and drinks water, nothing else. So to get her to eat anything outside of our normal environment is really difficult. So I've put a tin of tuna in there. It is enough for her for at least half a week. So she can get away with this for 4 days minimum. And she doesn't tend to eat a lot when we're not in our normal home environment, so that might actually even go for a week. It can even be fed to the dog as well. She also likes tuna. Now you can use a pouch like this to store anything that your animal needs on a regular basis. So if they have any chronic medication that they're on or any kind of treatment that you give to them, usually you can store in here. In the top flap, I keep a bottle of frontline spray. So this is something that I use on the animals to ensure that they are tick-free and flea-free. I really like this because it deters insects from them from the start. So the animal doesn't have to get bitten for the tick or the flea to fall off of them. If you're not in your normal home environment and you end up somewhere in the bush, that's going to be a whole lot of help. Because to try and treat an animal for tick bite fever in the bush is not fun. So this stuff is, I'm continually told, it is really safe to use on animals, but always go and check with your vet what is safe for your animal and what you can use. Sometimes animals are on different kinds of medications and they can interfere, so make sure that all of your stuff gels with each other. Every time I put frontline spray on the animals, I get some on myself as well. I swear that is the reason why I never get ticks and fleas on me. For all of the bundu bashing that I do, I have never found a tick biting me before. I found some on my clothes before, but never have I found a tick that has actually latched onto me and bitten me. I really think it's because of the frontline spray. So it's useful stuff to have. If you are going to keep caches in the wilderness for yourself, it's good to keep a bottle of frontline spray in there as well. The frontline spray actually comes with a lid, not just the, I wonder if the lid's in here. Yeah. It comes with a lid as well. It's better to store it with the lid on than with the spray nozzle on because it can evaporate over time. And also check the storage instructions and the dosage instructions before using it and storing it. Now you can go and put any amount of things in the bag or in the container that you keep for your animal. I've got a knife in here, I've got some rope in here. You can keep a lighter and a ferro rod so that if you only have the opportunity to grab one bag, you've got everything that you need in that one bag. You can also add these items to your bugout bag. But because I've got a cat, I want to be able to carry her with me and I want to be able to transport her safely. So this is also a backpack. So if I do need to move her around, I can easily put her in here. We do vet trips in this bag, and just to get her to not associate it with vet trips, I sometimes leave it out in the lounge or wherever in the evenings when we are at home, and she plays in it because there are these doors on either side. So she's really comfortable in this bag. Not all animals need to be contained though. Maybe you've got a dog who's really well trained and follows you around irrespective of what's going on around you. Now a leash is really important for dogs because If you're in an environment where there are multiple dogs and you don't know the other dogs in the area, it really is great to at least have your dog on a leash. If they do start fighting or they start chasing each other, you can control at least one of the dogs. So this leash is great because it is one of those extendable leashes. So Indy can go a good 10 meters away from me and I can retract her in. So it's really great. I sometimes even take a carabiner and just clip it onto either my belt, or if I've got a D-ring on my backpack, then I'll just keep it here and I can easily reach that and clip it onto her and unclip her when I think that it's safe enough to do so. Carabiners are great for animals. So when we go camping, we take the cat camping with us. So the dog, cat, Sean and I all go camping together. And then what we do is we'll sometimes put a line up over our campsite. Because cats don't come back when you call them, Juniper always has a harness on as well. Now I've tried multiple harnesses on cats, but really the best one that I've found is the skinny one. Something like this looks like it might be more secure. It probably is more secure, but she's really uncomfortable in it and that doesn't help a lot. If you adjust it to the right sizes, she's not going to get out of this. So she obviously also wears her collar along with this, and the reflective bit is nice because I can spot her easily in the dark. But when we are out camping, Juniper is never off of her harness outside of the tent. The only time that I will take her harness off is if we've closed up the tent, and once again I've taken a carabiner and clipped the tent shut so that you don't forget in the middle of the night that there's a cat in the tent. You open the tent, the doors open and out goes the cat. So the carabiner is really useful. And then what I do with the extended leash is I'll put a line up, maybe just a bit of paracord or something like that over the campsite. I'll clip a extended leash, something like this one over here, which is a good 10 meters in length, onto the line above. You can even clip it onto a carabiner, and then the other side gets clipped onto her harness. So Junie has free rein in the campsite. She can move around wherever she wants, but within reason and within limits. So she can't go running off because she's attached to something, and it takes a lot more effort and awareness having a cat around the campsite. You really have to pay attention to what she's doing at all times. So we have before had a vehicle with a dog come rushing past our campsite, and the dog got scared and Sean got a fright and I even got a fright. But Juniper was closed in the tent, luckily, in that moment. So if ever I move away from her, I'll always close her in the tent so that she's safe. If there aren't two people to keep an eye on her, then it's better to have her enclosed in the tent. She's quite a happy camper, actually. Her first time was not so great. She wasn't exactly sure why we had moved her from her home and put her in a noisy tent where the wind was blowing. But the second time around, she started warming up to the idea, and it was fun then. Then Indy was there and we were there, and I'd take her for walks, and so she gets very curious. She's really actually quite cute in the tent. So she sleeps a lot. She sleeps like 16 hours a day. So it's really great for me to have a tent to enclose her in if we do go camping with her.
So Juniper, our cat, also gets cold when we camp in winter. So even cats can in some instances benefit from wearing a jersey.
Something I can really attest to is how useful it is to actually make your animals used to all of this gear before you actually need it. So it really helps if you're going camping with an animal, or if you're traveling, or if you just want to be disaster ready, to have them used to these items beforehand. So I leave the bag in the lounge and then Junie plays in it. I open both the doors on the side. She thinks it's really cool. She gets to sharpen her nails or her claws on the inside. So this is really a fun thing for her. And it helps her to not just associate it with going to the vet. The same goes for the doggy harness. If you're going to have a harness, remember that your dog now has extra things sitting on the side of them, so their maneuverability is affected by the things that you put on them. So we've noticed that Indy doesn't manage to get through thick bush as easily when she's wearing this harness, so we tend to take it off if we are bundu bashing through hectic bush, which is actually when you want it for snake preparedness, but it doesn't help that she can't move with you. I have actually on a couple of occasions ended up carrying Indy through the bush because we have gone through such thick bush. So really it helps to also consider your animal's maneuverability with the things that you are going to put on them.
Know how well your animal can swim and whether they have any physical limitations or conditions that may hinder their mobility or well-being in an emergency. and what you can do to mitigate those risks and issues. For instance, can your pet swim well, or do they panic in water? If you foresee a river crossing, how would you get everyone across safely? How can you warm them up on the other side as well? Remember, they also suffer hypothermia. If they have a recurring injury, how can you keep them mobile, or would you have to carry them, and are you able to do so with all of your gear?
In general, animals don't drink water the same way humans do, so they need something to lap it up from. Remember, they can't drink as easily from a water bottle as we do, and in an emergency, water can be such a valuable resource. The last thing you want to do is waste it. So having a little bowl that you can give your water to your animal and then collect whatever is left over and put it back in the container is really great. There are some really great collapsible bowls that you can get. Just make sure that they are not so heavy and enormous that they take up a lot of space and add a lot of weight to your bag. Something like a small aluminium bowl that is really lightweight and tiny is easy to stash in your bag. We sometimes even put this inside our cooking pot set, and it travels like that. So Indy has her bowl come out the same time that we have our bowls come out, so everybody's happy. Now, I've done a lot of hiking and filming with Indy, and she does really get cold because she doesn't have a lower coat. She only has the upper coat. I'm not sure what you call it, but she doesn't have the fluffy down layer that Juniper has. So if we get wet, Indy tends to get cold really quickly. So I have a raincoat for her. She's chewed on it at the front before. I've tried to fix it and she chewed it again. So we give up on that, but it is a really decent little raincoat. She got it from quite a cheap little shop. It's nothing specific, and I haven't been able to find a whole lot of similar ones on the web, but it does have a little hole that you can put her leash through. So even if she's wearing a little harness underneath the raincoat, you can still connect a leash to her, and it's got a nice little neck piece that keeps her warm. So it is important to try and keep your animals dry in an emergency. If there's a lot of rain, let's say it's monsoon season where you live, then consider the fact that your animals get cold, and consider the fact that they get hot as well. So in really hot conditions, I've gone hiking with a dog where the road was so hot, and I could see the dog was avoiding the tar road because of the heat of that road. So we ended up walking on the grass next to the side of the road. But consider that their paws actually do burn on that road. If you can add a little lightweight or an ultralight towel to their bag, that's also really good to have around. Now, a lot of this stuff is integrated into my bugoutbag and our preparedness system at home. So this is actually my waterproof bag that lives in my bugoutbag. It has all of my important documents in it, but it also has the animals' important documents in it. So inside the waterproof bag, I've got another plastic bag. That's got our maps, compass, navigational stuff. You can see passports and things in there. So I keep all of the animals' important documents with ours. That makes it easier to travel as well. If you need to travel in a hurry and you know you need medical records for the animals, then it's great to have them all together with yours. It's also in a waterproof bag so that if we land up in a river somewhere, the documents stay dry. There are a couple of other things that you can do to ensure that you can find your pets in a disaster, or if you go camping with them, that you can keep an eye on where they are. As far as trackers go, you can find anything from a Garmin tracker to a tile tag that you actually usually just put on your keys. So I, at one point, had a tile tag on Juniper. Even just a small Bluetooth device can give you so much peace of mind about where your animal is and that you will be able to locate them. Because animals tend to get a fright and they scatter and they go and hide in places that they think are safe that are not necessarily safe for them, it's really helpful to be able to go and find them from that place, collect them and put them somewhere where they actually will be safe. The tile tag didn't work so well because Juniper kept on dunking it in her water bowl every time she drank water. I am trying a different tracker, so we will go and have a look at that one in a moment. But it also comes with a really nice app that you can set a geofence on. So if she leaves the perimeter of the geofence that I've set for her, it immediately notifies me and I can go and find her and bring her back into that space. So let's use Juniper's tracker and see if we can find her hiding in the bush somewhere. Somewhere in the garden. Come on.
Oh, kitty. Show us your cell phone, kitty. Hey? Show us your cell phone, kitty. Oh, it's dirty now, Junie. There you go. Junie's tracker. So I found Kitty about 20 meters from where the app said she was. So her tracker actually helps me to find her, but it's not completely accurate. So it's, oh, hello, Indy. Hello. It's accurate to maybe within 20-30 meters. Hey kitty? Yeah. But it does give me a great idea of where to start looking for her. I'm gonna take this off pretty. So that's it. It's just about the size and shape of a matchbox, maybe a little narrower than a matchbox, and it just sits inside the sleeve. Now, there are a lot of tracking devices on the market for your pet, so do your research before you buy. For this one, I had to get a SIM card and basically register and RECA a SIM card. So it has GPS tracking. There are also trackers that use Wi-Fi, which is really nice inside the house, but for outside, GPS is relatively accurate. It has actually been able to determine Juniper's position up to the centimeter before, but it's not always that reliable. However, it does give me a great place to start searching for her. And do read the fine print before you purchase, because some of them require you to take out a subscription with a monthly fee.
You can also chip your animals, but the chips don't actually work as an active tracker. So for it to be an active tracker, you need to be able to put a SIM card in a tracker. That means that the tracker is going to go on the collar. What the chips do is they provide a means to scan the animal for contact details. So if somebody finds your animal and they take them to the vet and they say, can you check if the animal has a chip? The vet can scan the animal and see there is a chip and there is contact information. It really is useful to keep that tracking code or that chip code somewhere safe. Save it on your phone or save it or memorize it or save it in your bag. Make sure that you can repeat the code back to the vet, because if you phone the vet and you say my animal is lost, this is the chip code or this is the chip number, or the tracking code, then they can have a look around. If any animal comes in, they can check it against the number that you've given them and your animal can come home hopefully much faster. Really what it comes down to is giving your animals the same consideration and care that you require yourself. So if you need food, your animal is going to need food. If you need water, your animal is going to need water. Please note that animals also get sick from drinking infected water.
It also helps to know what kinds of foods your animal can and can't eat in the environment, and to be versed in a bit of pet first aid so that you can treat at least the most basic of animal injuries. Remember, animals can't take all the medication and products that people can. Some of them are toxic to pets, so ask your vet these questions beforehand.
As far as livestock preparedness goes, it probably is a good idea to sit and consider what you would do in an emergency. If there is flooding or there is fire, where are you going to evacuate your livestock to? If you've got horses, do they box easily? What would you feed them if you needed to move them? Where would you go with them if you needed to evacuate your farm or your small holding? So these are all things that we need to think through. As much as you prepare for disaster with your family, you need to consider all of the livestock and the animals in your yard as well. The other thing that we as humans take into consideration, but animals are not always considerate of, is concealment. You don't always want to be seen in an emergency. In an example such as looting or civil unrest, you want to remain quiet, go grey man. You don't want to attract attention to yourself, and dogs can often do the exact opposite of that. If dogs are aggravated or somebody approaches you, especially a stranger, a dog can feel that they have to protect their master. So they will make a noise and they will try to attack someone, especially if they are agitated. So make sure that your dog is well trained and that they have a couple of tricks up their sleeve as well. So with Indy, I have started teaching her to duck and hide. And it's quite cute. She understands that when I go down over her and I cover her and I bend her and I go, shh, shh, hide, 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 then she goes quiet. And it's only for a period of time, and we wait. And I'm teaching her to wait longer, and then I'll say, good job, and then I'll give her a treat. So she starts understanding that there is a reason why we duck and hide, or that there is a reason why she learns a certain trick, and that there is a reward attached to that. These are things that you need to teach your animals beforehand. You really need to make an effort to train them before you need it.
If you're happy to do so, you can also get a training collar for your dog. It creates an uneasy electrical current when the dog barks to help discourage the animal from barking unnecessarily. These can actually be adjusted for sensitivity and frequency, and will in some instances allow the dog to bark if they are truly barking at a threat, but create an uncomfortable feeling when they bark just for the sake of it. Remember to always try these things on yourself before putting it on your animal.
Juniper originally wasn't fond of traveling. She's still not fond of traveling, especially in an enclosed space. So she does not like being in her bag inside the car. But as soon as I let her out in the car, she finds a space where she can sleep. It also really helps if you've got two pets to put them together. So if you separate them and you're traveling with only one at a time, then that pet can become a bit agitated. But if you put the two of them together in the vehicle, then they tend to travel a little bit better. Or at least that's what I find with Indy and Juniper. The most important point to highlight here is do it beforehand. Take the time to go for a drive with your animals. Get them used to the car. Bunnies are easy. You put them in a box and you put them in the back of the vehicle. But cats and dogs don't always travel as easily. Well, that's my pet preparedness system, guys. If you've got any more tips, drop it in the comment below. I'm going to put links for these items in the description to this video, so really go and check that out. There are some really cool things on the market for animals these days. Let me know what you've done to prepare for your animals, and until the next time, live ready.